presenters. So we are going to be receiving presentations from Trish Okolo and Trisha Mulder-Smith. So we've got Trish and Trisha uh, teaching us today. I'll share a little bit of information about each. So Trisha Colo is the Development and Operations Coordinator at Treetops Collective. She holds a master's degree in philanthropy and nonprofit leadership from Grand Valley State University. She specializes in grant writing, fundraising events, donor relations, hiring, onboarding, and professional development, all aimed at fostering organizational growth and community impact. Thank you so much, Trish, for being with us today. We're excited to learn from you. Trisha Mulder Smith, her began her professional journey in financial services sector, earning a bachelor's in business administration from Grand Valley and an MBA from Cornerstone University. In 2011, she shifted her focus to youth advocacy, taking on a director level role at the Gerald R. Ford Job Corps Center in Grand Rapids, where she spent 7 years supporting disadvantaged youth ages 16 to 24. During this time, she discovered a passion for grant writing. After leaving the Job Corps in 2018, an unexpected meeting with a former colleague led her founding the River City Grant Writing. Today, Trisha enjoys traveling with her husband, John, and while her three daughters have all left the nest, she now fills her home with an ever-growing collection of houseplants. Thank you so much, Trisha and Trish. We are excited to get started. Um, I will share my screen. Marcial, do you want to drop that PowerPoint link in the chat one more time, just in case we got some joiners while I was doing my introduction and folks can open that up. And again, we'll drop links in the chat as we go along and I will capture questions. So without further ado, let me make sure I share the right slides. Share. All right, take it away, Trish and Trisha.
Oh, hi everyone. It's so great to meet different faces, and I'm so excited doing this. And today we'll be talking about what documents you need in assessing grants, like what the government is looking out for, what the state is looking out for, and what foundations and other donors are looking out for. And we have like different documentation. We have the basic, we have the intermediate, and we have the advanced. Next slide, please. Okay, you can just pass this. You've introduced me already. Okay, we'll start with the basic information that you need. Okay, we have what we call the LARA documentation. It's a Michigan licensing and regulatory affairs that oversees business registrations and compliances. And it's important because it ensures your organization is legally registered and is compliant with the Michigan state laws. And it's required for state level grants. So it's so important for your business to be registered. And it's a straightforward process. And I'll guide you through the process in the course of this presentation. And we also have another important document called the Certificate of Good Standing. This document is so good. It's so important because this is you showing like a certificate that you're of good standing and you're compliant with the state laws. And it's often required for applying for grants, especially the state and federal grants. So can you help click on the link for Lara? Thank you. Okay, so this is what the Lara website looked like. So I'll show you right now. Let's search for Treetops Collective where I work. So you can see Treetop Collective. Yeah, you can click there. Now, when applying for a grant now, most organizations, like for a federal and state grant, when you just search your organization name, everything about you just appear here. As you can see, the name of our organization is here, our address, the date of incorporation, our most recent annual report. That was last year, 2024. You can scroll up, down. You can see also our board of directors, their names, their addresses, it's also here. You see how important this is. So with this now, they'll say, oh yeah, you're compliant and you are fully registered. Can you go up? Then to get your certificate of good standing, because most people don't really have it. So you can request for one and it will be sent to you. So can you please click on that?
I clicked, it said pop-up blocked. So I think my, let me see, continue. No. Is this where you want to be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if your pop-up gets blocked, you click up there.
So with this now, when you click on that, we already have ours. You can see all our certificate listed here. You can get any of our certificate. You can just click on it and download it. Anybody can have access to that, anybody. But so it's very good for you to have one in their database. Because with that, they'll believe you're of good standing. Good standing means you're sending your Form 990. We'll talk about that later. You're sending your reports. You're doing everything right. You're updating your information. Whenever you have a new board of director, you need to update your information. Whenever you change your address, you need to update your information. Whenever you change your mission, your vision, you need to update that. So with that, they'll notice that, oh, you're really active and everyone can find everything here. So you can request for one if you don't have one. It's for $10 for the certified copy. But if you need an uncertified copy, it's free. But I recommend you having a certified copy. So that's just it. So maybe you can practice that. Do we have the link on the chat? So you can practice to see if your organization is of good standing and if you're registered. You can just check out.
Do you want folks to do that now?
Yeah, they can just practice that quickly and see.
Okay.
Has anyone checked? Ooh, has anyone checked? Good, nice. Okay, that's awesome. Good. Then if you don't have your certificate of good standing, you can just request for one, maybe after the training to just have one that you have. You can just keep that for your copy and for your applications.
Sorry, I clicked. Are you good with the next slide?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
that's fine. Okay, so another important form is the form IRS 990 as a non-profit It's a required form. And this is one of the forms to also show you that you're in good standing, that you always submit this every year. And it's a mandatory tax form for non-profit to maintain their tax exempt status. If you don't submit this, your non-profit will be taxed. And it's no longer, and once your non-profit is taxed, you're no longer a non-profit because, and you can also be like, because it shows your transparency. Donors, when donors don't see your 990, they'll believe you're not really transparent with everything because the 990 have everything. It has your programs, it has your budget, your financial statements, it has your the name of your board of directors, your staff, the money, everything, your money coming in, going out, your expenses, and this shows transparency and good governance. And it's usually we have different types of forms. We have the form 990N. This form is for organizations that have a gross receipt of less than $200. It's for really smaller non for less than $50,000. Sorry, it's for really smaller nonprofit. When you have your gross receipt means your income before your program expenses. That's income from your donations, from grants, from anywhere. If it's less than 50,000, that's when you can file for the 990N. Then we have the 990EZ. It's for organization with gross receipts between 50,000 and $200,000. Then we have the general one, the Form 990. These are for organization with gross receipt exceeding $200,000. So it's always required to always file these at the fifth of every at the yeah fifth that's in May. For example, if your end of year is December, you should file it before May, the fifth of every year. So it's really important. It shows you're transparent and you won't have issues with any state laws and government. Shows you're compliant with your business registration names and everything. Even if your nonprofit is not really actively doing anything, maybe you don't have any money in a particular, because some year you may not have any donations, nothing is happening. You also need to file it. And also then you have to file the 990N because maybe your income will be less than $50,000, but it's really important to file it. And it's online. I don't know if we'll have enough time to click on that, but it's just an easy process. Yeah. So here, so you can see these are the forms to file. You can just pick your own. If you're less than $50,000, you go to Form 990N. So when you click on it, you can just click on that. So this is the guide on how to. These are all the guide that you need to follow in order to fill up the form. You can still go down. So you create an account. You have to, when you create, after creating an account, then you put in all your information. They'll ask you for the name of your organization, your EIN number. Once you're registered, you have an EIN number. You put in your EIN number, they'll ask for your financial statements, they'll ask for your program fees, they'll ask for your board of directors. You just have to just put that. If you have a new board of director, you need to add that to the list every year and also update your Lara information also. Then at the end, you can submit. Yeah, it's a straightforward process and it's not hard. Then we have the financial statement, another important document that donors always love to check. So the financial statement, it shows um, your profits and your losses. And it shows your income and your expenses. It usually show donors the financial health of your nonprofit. Because if the financial health of your nonprofit is not really good, donors will be scared to donate to your organization. And they'll say, oh, if I should donate to them, will they really maximize these grants? Because looking at your financial statement and seeing it's not healthy, it's not a good sign. So that's why it's very important to have all these documents and to because you are liable to all your documents. And we also have what we call the balance sheet. It summarizes your assets, your liability, and your equity. All these you can have right now we have accounting software that can help you do all these. We have the QuickBooks. Yes, QuickBooks, you have to pay like some subscription fee or something, but they have like basic fee and you can also write to them if you're a small nonprofit, you can write to them and ask for a discount. Oh, I'm new, I'm this. You can ask for a discount, and sometimes they give you that discount. And the QuickBook is easy to use. It can help you to generate your profit and loss and your balance sheet. Right now, yeah, I sent you guys a sample of a profit and loss, right? Can you show that in the chat for people to see what it looks like, please?
Yep, Marcial dropped that in the chat. So
Yeah, I
it
shared it.
is,
Sorry.
yep, you're all good. So 990 filing form, and then the profit and loss PDF is in the
Yes,
chat as well.
Yeah.
we can see it.
Perfect.
Okay. So if you can see the profit and loss, you'll see the income. You will see what is income means what is coming in. Then expenses is what is going out. So at the end, you subtract the income from the expenses. And the remaining, if it's a positive sign, it means that's a good one. If it's a negative sign, then there's a problem. Your expenses should not be higher than what is coming in. You should try to work around that. And it's so important for donors because they tend to look at this to see your expenses, especially when you're preparing your budget. Yeah, Trisha will talk more about budgeting. I'm not talking about budget, but when you're preparing your budget, when you submit your grant budget, donors usually compare that with your financial statement to see, oh, okay, you said you're doing this particular program, for example, for a $5,000, but and you're reaching out to maybe 100 participants or 100 people. And right now, this is your financial statement, and you use the same amount, but you reached out to just 50,000 people. So you need to be very careful when doing all that for your grant application. So can someone just look at the profit and loss that was shared and just like what's your takeaway from what you just saw there? What do you think about it? Can anyone just share? What do you notice? Do you notice anything? What do you think? Imagine you're a donor. What do you think?
Is it okay if I talk?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, I saw gross profit there, and I also saw different expenses in the itemized way. And then also I can know what is the net income right now going on to the business or is in the non-profit organization. And then also what is my payroll expenses, what are the IRA, how much I put it. So it gives detailed information about the non-profit organization, or if it is a business, it gives the detail, everything, and it makes it so easy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So this makes donor once donor just look at it, they'll say, okay, I can trust these people. I can give them this because everything is really clear out here. So it's important we have all these financial documents. Yeah, next slide. Organizational charts, really, really important. If you notice, if you've applied for any grants, they tend to know who are your team. And sometimes they ask for profiles of each of your team members. And you should have like a rank. You should have a chart where you have who is in control, who is under this, who is doing that, and who is doing this. It's really very good. Yeah, you might say, oh, maybe I'm a small nonprofit. It's just me and my board members. Good, it's still fine. You should put it out there and you should have all their profiles like updated for donors to really see, okay, who are doing these activities when I give them this money? They need to see your experience in doing all this. So it's really important to have an organizational chart, and it demonstrates your leadership capacity and the role clarity. Oh, who is the person managing this program? Who is the person doing the financial aspect? Who is the person doing the communication? It's important to show all this. So it's really give funders the idea that, oh, they can really execute this particular project. Next slide, please.
All right, my turn. Thank you, Trish.
You're welcome.
So the next part we're going to talk about isn't necessarily a document, but we're moving more into some things that you should have prepared for the grant applications that you will commonly be asked. So as a grant writer who completes dozens of grants every month, I can't tell you how many. I would say probably 99% of the time, one of the first things that a funder wants to know is what is the organization's mission and vision? And if you don't have those easily accessible or in a easily accessible place where multiple people can get to them, I recommend that you maybe create a shared Google folder with a document labeled mission, vision, and core values. If you are a new organization and or possibly going through a change as an organization, a mission statement is a couple of sentences that really explains what you do and why you exist. You don't need to say you're a nonprofit in your mission statement. I see that quite often, but you don't need to say that. What you need to say is what you do and why you exist. A vision statement is a broader example of what the world would look like if your goals as an organization happen. So the kind of a way to look at it is nonprofits work a little differently than for-profit businesses. You created your nonprofit to hopefully someday solve a problem. So hopefully someday your nonprofit will solve that problem and you'll go out of business, quote unquote. So does anybody want to tell me what their nonprofit is and why they exist? Anybody? Everybody's shy today.
I can play a game with the participant list and just call somebody if you want.
I can actually talk about the one I'm with. I'm with West Michigan Works,
Okay.
and basically we try to help um, the people in West Michigan. We're actually located all over the state, but different sectors take care of different sections of Michigan. And basically, our directive is to try to keep our manufacturers or construction workers, healthcare industry, um, to kind of generate talent and keep prevent, I guess, brain drain, where they have kids and people who graduate from the area, and some people who may come to the area from without of Michigan, have jobs and opportunities and ways into fields that may not be traditional fields, that maybe the pathway isn't college, to get more kids into technical fields or trade schools, welding, that sort of thing.
Right. Great. Great. Do you know what their mission and vision statement is? Do they have one?
I'm fairly new to the organization. I can probably look it up really quick, though. I don't have it memorized as of yet.
Okay. So one thing that I encourage is that if you are going to have people who you're going to have a grant writing team, or you're going to be tasked with grant writing, have that easily accessible in just like a template document where you can copy and paste it, because that will be something that you frequently run across and you'll need to know quickly.
Okay.
If that is something that you don't, if it's something, if somebody in the audience thinks, oh my gosh, that's something we don't have, that should be added to your next board of directors meeting as an agenda item. And that's something that you should begin talking about. What is our mission statement? What is our vision for a world where we don't exist in a positive way? What would have, why do we exist? And what needs to happen where we solve the problem, where we're no longer needed in a positive way?
Yes. Let me read you the one I have for us. So it's create a qualified workforce that meets our region's current and future talent needs and fuels our shared economic future.
Yeah. See? And so the good news is too, on the flip side, when you're out looking for grants and you're creating programs and you're thinking, this grant maybe kind of fits, but not really. You should always go back to your mission statement and your vision statement, and that should always be your litmus test to make sure you're not getting too far out. Because it is always better to wait for the right grant opportunity than constantly chase money. Because if you end up chasing money, then you end up diluting the quality of your organization. That's why a mission, vision statement, and core values are so important to an organization. Next slide, please. This next part seems kind of basic, but again, if you're going to have a team of people helping you, it's just nice to have the basic information in a central location. It should be your organization's legal name, your DBA, which is you're doing business as, or your nickname, might be different than your actual legal name. You might have an INC or a company or something at the end of your legal name. And that legal name is what the funders will want to know. And that's the name that's on your tax returns. Your legal address, phone number, contact name, email address. Who is the person that will be responsive and be able to answer questions about that grant application? Typically, that's the executive director or someone at that level within your organization. You'll want to know amount requested. That'll be depending on that'll vary from funder to funder. And then you'll want a consistent project or program name so you can be, when you are tracking your requests, you're able to track what requests went for what project so that you can stay organized. All right, next slide. History and background. That's another great part about having a template ready. And this is typically 2 to 4 paragraphs. And if you have a website, this is a really important part to have on your website as well, because funders do check websites. You may think they don't, but they do. Especially family foundations, I have found. They do it quite often. Some great things to include if you need some writing prompts. Who started the organization and who serves in it now? So if you've had a change of leadership because you're an older organization, that's important to point out. What it seeks to accomplish, that kind of goes back to the mission and vision we talked about a couple of slides ago. When was it founded? Where you started and where you serve now. So did you start out in the Elger Heights neighborhood and now you serve all of Kent County? Did you start in Kent County and now you serve all of the state? Why you started your organization and how has it changed? Did you start out with one food truck and now you have you have 10 pantries throughout the state? Did you start with one location and now you're in 5 counties? Talk about your growth. That's when you have a chance to toot your horn a little bit. Nonprofit leaders often hesitate to talk about their successes, and now is the time to do it. You need to show a funder you have a proven track record of success. Because after all, a grant application is in a way a sales pitch. Next slide, please. Okay, this next document is your solicitation license. And this is going back to an actual required document that whether or not you write a grant, you need to have to be a compliant nonprofit organization in the state of Michigan. If you are going to do any fundraising or receive a grant that is more than $25,000, and there's a typo there, sorry about that, guys, I just noticed it, should be $25,000 or more in donations or grants in one calendar year. You have to have that. And it's really important to note that it must be renewed annually. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to click on the solicitation license lookup link. Okay, so first we have to read the disclaimer, and then you click down about 2/3 of the way down that you read the disclaimer. And then we type in the organization's name, and we're going to continue on with the trend, and we're going to type in Treetops Collective. And we're going to go below and we're going to click search. And did we get our, and there they are. They have their registration pending, so they filled out their renewal as they're supposed to. And what you want to do is when you find that if yours is current, you want to go ahead and just print screen, print to PDF, have that in your documents, your grant documents folder, label it solicitation license, and make sure that you renew it every year. So that's how you look it up. If you have not ever filed a solicitation license, it is free to do. And you can go ahead and click on that link, please. It is done through the Attorney General's office. It is a PDF. This form in the links that Marcielle put in the chat, you just go through, it's a PDF, you fill it out, and you submit it with your most recent 990. It takes about probably a half an hour to do. You can sign it, submit and email it. you'll get a response from the Attorney General's office. And then every year on the about 30 days before the expiration date, you submit your renewal and they will notify you that it needs to be renewed. And you submit the renewal with your newest 990 form. So as Trish said earlier, it's really important to make sure you're filing your 990 on time because it is important to make sure you're compliant with other documents as well. All right, we'll go on to the next slide. All right, so the IRS determination letter. This is the document you got when you first decided to become a nonprofit. But you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know where mine is. Does anybody in the want to admit in the chat they don't know where theirs is automatic off the top of their head? And they think they might need to locate a new copy? I don't see anybody. Does everybody know where theirs is? And I don't have to show you? Colin, you're not in a nonprofit. Okay, I will go ahead and show you. So the first thing we can do is go to the tax exempt organization search with the IRS. They have this really great website. So we'll go ahead and we'll do a search by, we'll click the middle box and we're going to search by name. We're going to click the middle box and it's going to drop down.
Middle box, search by,
Search by,
organization name. Thank you.
yep. And we're going to search, somebody want to put a name of an organization in the box? In the chat?
Krishna said West. Yes, so we'll put West Michigan Asian American Association.
Occasionally, don't freak out if nothing shows up. Sometimes they get funny with spacing and stuff. We might just, oh, there it is. Sweet. Okay, go ahead and click on that. Okay, so unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't show up. So it didn't show up this time because they're a little bit of an older organization. So the easy way to find your IRS determination form didn't pan out. So we're going to have to go to Plan B. So we're going to click on the second link. We're going to request a replacement letter. And you're going to fill this form out and you're going to send it to the IRS. And about 6 weeks later, you'll get a replacement letter in the mail. There you go. Oh, we have a second request for Rama Worldwide. The determination letter will show up for Rama Worldwide. You can click right on determination letter.
Is it one of these final letters?
Yeah, you can click on the top one.
Yeah. So it opens it up for me, but I don't think it's following on my screen.
Probably because it's a picture, not a PDF. So The second one we tried is right on the IRS. So we were 50-50. And that's kind of that, and that's how it is with when I'm working with new clients. Half the time we have a luck with the IRS website, and half the time we have to go and request a new one if the client doesn't have one handy. So that's why I put both of those options. The other thing I do want to point out when it comes to this, if you have moved locations, you need to compare your new address with the address on your IRS determination letter. And if not, you need to update your address with the IRS. You need to make sure everything is updated and accurate. All right. I'll go ahead to the next. Okay. So we are at the beginning of a new calendar year, which is also the new fiscal year for many organizations, but not everybody. So now is the time to consider really buckling down and getting that 2025 organizational budget done. I can't tell you how many nonprofits that I meet with throughout the year that it could be August or September and they haven't done one yet. And we got to get one done quickly. And not only should you get it done as a leader of your organization, but the board should also be approving it. So the easiest way to start one, well, first of all, the purpose of an organizational budget is it shows financial responsibility and transparency. It makes sure that you have it makes sure you're spending your money with a purpose. It makes sure that you are allocating your resources properly, as supporting your strategic planning. It inspires funder confidence because the people who are donating money to you are trusting you. And it's never too late to create one. So if your fiscal year started in September and you're thinking, oh gosh, it's the end of January, it's too late. It isn't. It's not too late. In the second slide, we're going to talk about some tips on how to create one. And go ahead and go to the next slide. So what we're going to do is Marcial put a link on a spreadsheet that I give out readily to everyone, and with some common, but they're not all-inclusive categories. So what you want to do is you want to take a look at your previous year's profit and loss statement. Take a look at your previous year's expenses, because that'll dictate what your upcoming year's costs and revenues will likely look like. You want to compare those and also consider, what do you want to do in this upcoming year as well? Do you want to spend less in some areas? Do you want to shift some priorities around? So first of all, revenue, you want to, obviously, if you had a net positive or carryover, you want to bring that over. You want to take a look at your grants that you plan, that you have possibly 2 and 3 year grants, so guaranteed grants. You want to take a look at what grants you plan to apply for, planned fundraisers, in-kind support, earned income, or any, and then individual donors, things like that. Expenses, try to come up with as much as you can. Bank
Can't
fees.
hear.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't able to hear you for some time. I don't know whether it was just me, but
Oh, I apologize. Where did that leave off?
it's left off at grant. So you said whether when it's 2 to 3 years and it's guaranteed, then you want to have that.
Yep, you definitely want to make sure that those grants are included in your revenue. And then you want to take a look at any fundraisers or events that you plan to have. You can take a look at if you've had those in the past, or if you're thinking about having a new fundraiser this year, you can talk to people that you know that have had first-time fundraisers and kind of estimate what you think your profit would be. In-kind support, you want to take a look at what the value of in-kind donations, like the value of volunteer hours is. You want to take a look at if you receive clothing or food donations, any type of that, you want to make sure you record. You want to make sure that you record any earned income. And other income could be things like individual donations, corporate donations, things like that. Expenses, you want to make sure that you have bank fees. If you use QuickBooks, they're notorious for fees. Client support, that could be things like if you help your clients out with basic items like hygiene support, or my clients help their clients out with things like basic bills or help them get into apartments and things like that. If you hire contractors like grant writers or accountants and things like that. If you donate items to clients, filing fees for things like your Laura, your taxes, things like that. Food and entertainment for hosting fundraisers, insurance, that can be some things to think about if you're looking at getting into city, county, or federal grants. There's different types of insurances that they require. So your insurance expenses might go up in 2025. So you may need to plan for that ahead of time. Any type of marketing for outreach events, mileage, occupancy, which would be rent, payroll taxes, subscriptions, tax prep, utilities, and wages. And it's really important to make sure that you take a look at what you spent last year and see how they may change this year, especially with inflation, factoring in raises, and any program expansions that you may want to consider. And and it's important to remember as well that every organization is unique, and you will have special budget lines that you will add that's not included in here. This is not an all-inclusive list. So I think now would be a really good time to answer any questions that for Trish and I. So you can either come off mute or you can type them in the chat. It's up to you.
I see 2 hands raised. Is it Sinya? Let me know if I'm not pronouncing
Yes.
correct.
Oh, thank you. Good try. It's Signy. Thank you.
Signy, sorry.
That's okay. It's kind of hard to pronounce. I get it. So, yeah, just curious. So, my organization is not a nonprofit. We are an LLC, but we're just trying to figure out if we want to become a nonprofit. So, a lot of these things are similar for an LLC. Is that not correct? Or
It's similar.
okay. And is there anything particular, like with what you've covered so far, that as we consider becoming a nonprofit, like that we need to pay special attention to? I noticed, and I just been taking some notes here, such as the Lara docs, which we have for an LLC. Would they change? And what would change with the Lara docs or the IRS? Just curious.
I mean, well, the tax form is completely different.
Okay.
For 990, I mean, a 990 is strictly for nonprofits.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a completely different tax return.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And then is it Abdelbari? Again, let me know if I'm not pronouncing correct.
Yes, correct. You pronounced it correctly. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, this is Abdul Bari from Rahma Worldwide. I was just wondering, since I'm the grants and partnership manager, I've worked on a lot of grants, and um, sometimes in terms of like in-kind support, some of them are very specific about kind of how do you know the value of this equipment, for example, that you're using for in-kind support, and kind of itemizing also the volunteer hours. I was just wondering, how would you advise going about demonstrating kind of the in-kind um, kind of capabilities that you have an organization when applying for grants? And sorry, I'm talking here in terms of matching, so not necessarily receiving those in-kind support, but an organization having that in-kind value and kind of just itemizing those, because some of the grants, especially the federal ones, I found them very hard because they're very specific about, what's the value of this and what's the value of this equipment and these hours and stuff like that. So I just wanted to see if you had any advice.
Yeah, so you're talking more of a project budget versus a organizational budget.
Correct, correct,
Okay.
correct.
So what I have done in the past is, bear with me here while I'm typing. So the U.S. Department of Labor has something called Wage and Hour Division. And it's called the Davis-Bacon Act. And I'm trying to desperately trying to find a link where they update it a couple of times a year. And they have hundreds of job classifications, and they assign an hourly rate to that job classification. So that is how I determine. So let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. I had a situation where I had to assign volunteer hours to the construction of a greenhouse that I had for a school. And I had 10 people who volunteered 10 hours each, so 100 hours of general construction labor to build this greenhouse. So I had to determine the value of that 100 hours of general construction labor. I went to the wage and hour division, and I found out for this county, that's how much the prevailing wage for it was. It was like $23 and some change an hour at that time. So I had a ton. It was way more than I expected. And so that was the value. And the funder didn't blink. They like, great, that's your match. So if you can back it up with this source, I have yet to have anybody tell me no. So I will find that link and get it in the chat before the end of this presentation.
Oh, perfect. That would be great. Because I feel like once you refer them to that link and say this is how it was calculated, then you have like more credibility, like, okay, they're not making this up and stuff like that. So that'll be very much appreciated.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
what would be your advice for, like, let's say if we're showing equipment matching? So let's say, for example, um we're using these tower gardens that we've purchased maybe 5 years ago, but then we don't have like a value for it because for some reason we don't have the documentation or something like that. Like, how would you advise going about that and showing the value of those equipment?
Are you not depreciating it on your tax returns?
That's a good question.
You should
Um,
you should be using the depreciated value on your tax returns.
okay, okay.
Whatever.
I'll ask our finance person since I don't handle that, but yeah.
Whatever the current value, depreciated value is on your tax returns would be what I would put as the value.
Okay, okay. We'll ask them. Thank you.
Great questions. I don't see any other hands raised and nothing in the chat on my end. And then Trisha, I'll let you kind of decide. We were talking about doing a break at 3:15, so I don't know if it makes sense to go forward for a few more minutes or do our break before you start the next section.
I think we're good. We could go, I think a break now would be a great time if nobody has any more questions.
All right. So it is 3:08. So math, 15 minutes later is gonna be 3:22. I think I did my math right. So we'll come back at 3:22. Count from 3:10. Thank you. Let's say let's say 3:25. That's a nice round number. Thanks, Abdul Bari. Appreciate your grace. All right. It is 3:25. I'm not sure if Trish or Trisha will be starting us off for the intermediate information section, but we can go ahead and get started. Trisha, do you want me to go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So here we have the Michigan VSS and the SAM.gov. So for the Michigan VSS, it's a vendor self-service, and it's a platform for organizations to manage their profiles and apply for state-level grants in Michigan, and to also bid for contracts. It's a prerequisite. It's required to have it's required to have an account in order to have access to the state grant in Michigan. Without this, you cannot have access to the state grant. And it's an easy process. We can click on the link for the VSS, please.
I try this other link. Oh,
Yeah, it will take you to the page.
here it goes.
Okay, yeah. So for the page, you need to, first of all, you need to create an account and you need to sign up to create an account. Create your user ID, put in your first name, your last name, and once you've created an account, then you can go, once you've created an account, you now have a profile, you now have like a platform where you can now update your profile. Can we go back, please? So once you've signed up, you'll get an email that will letting you know your ID and everything. You can now log in. Then you can register your vendor account. Then you already have a number. So when you, okay, yeah, you can click on that. Then click on sign up. It's still the same thing. You have a profile where you can now update everything about your business or your nonprofit, because it's also good for businesses if you need to get contract from the government, and for nonprofit if you need to get state grants from the government. You need to have a profile. On the profile, after you signed up, you will get an email showing you your username and your password. Then you can now log in. When you log in, you will see a very long form where you can put in the name of your organization, your mission, your vision, your EIN number, and your finance. They ask for your budget and all that. So you just have to fill that up. It's a requirement for state grants. Can we go back to the slide, please? We now have another one, the the SAM.org. It's also for this particular one is for federal grants. It's a platform where organizations can register to be eligible for federal grants. With this, when you sign up, you can click on the link to see how to sign up. When you sign up, you can now put in your information. The form is a really long form. They will ask for your contact detail, they'll ask for a contact person, they'll ask for a secondary contact person, they'll ask for your EIN, they'll ask for your EIN number, because they use that to verify if you're really existing and all that. And it takes like 2 business days for you to now, maybe if you're eligible, you get an email, oh yeah, you now have a number, it's been assessed. And this is usually renewed annually. Every year you need to renew it and update your information, your address and everything. You need to keep updating it every year to be able to access the federal grants. And it also ensures compliance with federal regulations for organizations seeking government grants. So it's really important. And next, please. And yeah, annual report. Annual report is a very important document because it summarizes your organizational achievements, same with your financial health and impact over the past year. It's usually a good document to send to prospective donors, to send to your donors, to let them see what their money is really doing. And prospective donors, it usually attracts them to your organization because it shows like almost everything. Your organizational achievement, what you've achieved, talks about your program, your milestones. It also includes the financial highlight of the financial health of your business because you have to show your profit. It also shows you, you can also show your team, what your team is made up. You can show all that there. It also demonstrates accountability and transparency to donors and funders. I don't think I shared a sample with you. Can I put a sample so you can see what our in three tops, what our 2023 annual reports look like? I don't think I shared that with you.
No, if you want to,
Can
you're
I put,
welcome to drop it in the chat if it's easy.
I think I can, yeah, I can find it somewhere. Let's see.
I could drop our annual report in the chat too if it's helpful, Trish.
Okay, okay, that can be helpful. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do our 2024 annual report.
Okay.
Ours might be a little bit different than a typical nonprofit because we're a kind of a multi-sector collaborative
Okay.
based in a government office, but
Yours is the Cadillac of annual report.
that's because we have Marcial on our team.
I've seen some really nicely done ones that are a couple of pages long. So don't think yours all have to be glossy and gorgeous to get the job done too.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, this is pretty. Okay, when you click on the link, you can see what annual reports look like. It's so nice. I love this.
Here I can share. Let's see.
You can see how they use numbers. And this is what excites people when they see these numbers. It's virtual. You're seeing you're seeing the successes. Hmm.
Then we kind of do community profiles and then dive into narrative.
You can see lovely charts. Oh. Then also the team is also here.
And then because ours is a collaborative model, we have links to all of the organizations that are in our work groups and planning committees.
Yeah.
And don't
Okay.
forget to thank your sponsors.
Yeah, very important. Very, very important. Recognize your sponsors and thank them. Very important. And okay, looking at these looking at these annual reports, by looking at it, can you just find like the impact, what they've done so far? Can anyone just tell me, looking at this, what are the impacts? What can you see? What did you observe? Anyone?
This is Grace from the Clay. I observed that there's a lot of information about the community being served. There's a lot of insights about the needs, or I see here a lot to do with language, which gives a picture of where the service is directed. When it shows the percentage of people who speak English very well and those who don't speak it well enough, and where a majority of people come from, the countries that they come from, and how many residents come from each specific country. It really gives an in-depth picture of the people who benefit from this program.
Yeah. So with this now, once a prospective donor is looking at this, they already have a snapshot of what they're really doing, because they can see everything. They can see the successes, they can see the numbers, they can see the mission, they can see the team, they can see everything. It's really important. Like what we do at Treetops, we usually send this at the beginning of the year to our donors to see, oh, this is our annual report for 2024, for example. And thank you so much for your donation. This is what your donation have helped us do. And it's really nice. Thank you so much.
Am I sharing the correct screen? I just want to make sure I'm back on your PowerPoint.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, that's
Okay. It's hard to tell on my end. Thank you.
We can go to the next slide.
All right, my turn. Right. So, in the chat is a spreadsheet for if you don't have a list together of your board of directors. It's a good spreadsheet to use. And some of this information may seem a little odd, but you'll be surprised how often these questions come up as a grant writer. And the one that I get the most questions on from my clients is, what does affiliation mean? And what that means is, what is the name of the company that your board member works for? Or if they're retired, what is the name of the company that they retired from? And where that kind of most often comes into play is if you are, for example, applying to a corporate foundation, they want to know if maybe you have somebody on your board that used to work for them or worked for a competitor. That might affect their decision either positively or negatively. So it's important that you have that information gathered. And with regards to race and ethnicity and gender identity, those questions are becoming more and more commonly asked because funders want to know that your board of directors represents the community that they serve and that the organizational leadership understands who they serve. And so those questions, and so kind of as the slide says, Will you need all of this information all the time? No. Will you eventually need it all? Yeah. So just get it all together now, and then that way you have it. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Another good one to start getting together and start thinking about, and this kind of goes back to the habits that I find with nonprofit leaders, is they don't like to brag. They don't like to talk about their successes. They really keep their head down and do the hard work, but don't talk about all of the hard work that they're doing. And so when I come to them and say, there's this link that says they're in this online portal, it gives us an option to upload an example of work we've done. Do you have a photo collage or a description of, or a diagram of some work that you've done recently, or a press release that you've sent out recently of, or a promotion that you've done online, or an example of some work you've done? And they kind of look at me and go, no, we just do the work. So as you're holding a community outreach event, take some pictures, put together in Canva a flyer that shows the work you're doing, show those smiling faces, say how many people came to that event. And then that way, when it comes time to seek a grant to support the next year's event, you have proof that it's working. Collaborating partners is another really dynamic way to show funders that you are not only doing the work, but you are really trying to make a bigger impact than maybe a small grassroots nonprofit can normally do with the amount of money that you're bringing in. So let's say you are $100,000 a year organization, but you know your mission really well, and you know you can do one activity really well, but you're being asked to do another activity. But you know another organization that can do that. And so you're going to partner with them and collaborate with them and work together to be able to create a new program in a way that allows you to work together and take both of your expertise and be able to share some money and be able to work and solve a problem, not duplicate efforts. And that way the funder will see that you're not trying to step on each other's toes. You're not creating more organizations to solve the same problem, because there's a dynamic at play where we have limited resources in the community. So we want to make sure we're working together and not creating new programs to solve the same problem maybe another organization is already working towards. So let's collaborate together and go on grants together to do that. So we want to make sure that we're talking to each other, and these types of work groups and these types of workshops are a great way to be able to get names of places and be able to learn different organizations that are out there, so that we can start learning what everybody's doing, learn what their roles are, learn what types of resources we can share, learn out how we can collaborate, and then start getting some commitments to each other. And then when it comes time to go and write a grant together, you want to create a formal agreement. An MOU stands for a Memorandum of Understanding. And really what that does is it outlines what roles and activities you will do to support the grant, and then who will manage the grant and who will get paid and how much you'll get paid, and it just kind of breaks everything down. And too often, what I find, and this is for the smaller nonprofits that are on this workshop, is the bigger nonprofits in town will ask the smaller ones to collaborate on a project, but they won't necessarily want to pay you to do the work. So you want to make sure that you know your worth, and you want to make sure that you're getting paid if you're being brought in. If they're using your name as a collaborating partner, make sure it is worth your time, and it's not going to cost you more money than it's going to, you're not going to end up in the red, so to speak, to use an idiom, that Holland. I see we have a question.
Yes, thank you. This is Signy. So just curious, do you find this to be an issue with business associations? Because our business association just became a nonprofit, and we're just, as the president of the business association, I'm trying to really figure out how to operate it. So what does that look like with business associations collaborating with, I don't know, other community organizations?
I don't have much experience on the for-profit side with this.
No, this is we're a nonprofit, the business association. We just became a nonprofit.
Okay. I don't know.
Can you repeat the question, Signy? I'm not sure if I understood it. Like if collaborating is common with business associations, or if there's like risk of, for lack of a better term, being taken advantage of, like the larger versus the smaller.
Correct, yes, because we're the Southwest Business Association. We're newer. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to make it work well for us as I learn more about nonprofits.
Yeah, well, I guess for me, the biggest thing is no, and that kind of goes back to the importance of your organizational budget. Is you have to know how much it costs to operate your organization, so that when somebody approaches you to collaborate, you know, based on the activities that they're asking you to participate and perform, you then can negotiate what your costs would be, so that you know that it will, at the very least, you'll break even, that you won't end up costing you more to perform those activities than it would be beneficial. So it's just a matter of you being able to come to the table and negotiate effectively.
Thank you.
I don't think the bigger organizations do it intentionally. I just don't think they understand the costs of operating the smaller nonprofits. They don't necessarily get the economies of scale that, the smaller organizations don't get the economies of scale. And it's up to us to tell them. Any more questions?
I do. I have another question. I'm with Cultivating Futures. My name is Mankisha Plesko. With that being said, a lot of times we are working from a smaller not-for-profit. We are reaching out to those bigger, more established not-for-profits. we ask those questions of saying, hey, this is the cost of our services. We really want to help to support the community because we're sharing communities. However, what we're told is that that it's not written in their budget to support us, if that makes sense. So it's more of asking us to volunteer in those spaces. And so that's where it gets a little tricky. And I think that we are asking the question of, hey, can we get paid for these services? And it's not actually, like a crazy amount of money. It's just like just covering the cost of supplies or covering the cost of your people or something like that. So in those situations, how do you navigate that when they're saying we're not written into their grant?
It's a matter of a lot of times then saying, oh, I'm sorry we missed this grant, and then starting the conversation with that person or the person in charge of the grant and finding out when the next cycle is so you can get entered in, so you can be included on the next grant. Or is there an upcoming grant you can be included on? Because they are speaking the truth. When I write a big state grant, I have to identify the contractors and the subgrantees at the time of application. And then the funding is coming through 6, 9, 12 months later. So if somebody approaches me after the award is announced, it's too late at that point. Excuse me. But so it's about building those relationships and getting your foot in the door and finding out when the renewal happens so you can be included in the next cycle. Any more questions?
Hi, this is Abdul Bari again. I guess the only question that I have is what would be kind of a substitute on MOU if like a collaborating organization or partner didn't want to fully commit yet? Because we know that MOUs are not legally binding, but some of them don't really prefer to have a formal MOU. So what would you suggest is kind of an alternative to show that commitment for that grant projects?
I mean, if they're not quite ready to go to, and you are correct. For those that don't know, a memorandum of understanding is not legally binding, but that does still make some organizations uncomfortable. So if you are in the process of building a relationship, before you take the step of going into a grant together, maybe try to do a community outreach event together where you co-headline it and then you split the costs. You do some letters of support for each other so that you can both apply for some grants individually with some letters of support. So your names start getting tied to each other. And those would be some initial steps where you start becoming friendly with each other. You maybe start job shadowing with some staff so that you maybe do some shared time. If there aren't some confidentiality issues, you might be able to do some shared volunteering or shared time between organizations during events or something like that, just so you get comfortable with each other as organizations.
Those are great tips. Thank you.
Any more questions, or we can move to the next slide?
I have one other question. So I know Cultivating Futures has been around since 23. And so we have had a hard time with finding grants or funders that would be able to fund us. And a lot of times it's because we have not had the experience or we have not been around a long time. So the question is what is your advice for organizations that are younger, even when they are doing the collaborations and so forth, and it's not being as successful as we would like it? What is your advice so that we can be able to have a little history under our belt, but also credibility?
Mm-hmm. So my experience is I like to use kind of and Trish can pop in on this question as well too, but my approach in the past is while an organization is building up data and experience and a proven track record, I kind of take a pebble in a pond approach. And if you can kind of visualize what happens when you throw a pebble into a still pond, the circles that it makes is you want to start with the circles closest to where the pebble landed into the pond, and that would be the funders that are closest to you. And those would be the funders that would be the closest to where you're making your impact. And those are the funders where you will be able to get in front of them and be able to tell them what you're doing. And it's really going to be about telling your story and telling them why you're doing what you're doing. And those are the funders and the donors. It's not just about grants at this, and no nonprofit will be able to sustain itself just on grants. It needs to be about more than that. It needs to be about fundraising as well. And those are the people that will support you early on, are the ones that you need to be able to get in front of and tell your story. And then as you establish your data and you establish your history, you can go out to the further circle, which are maybe your regional foundations, and then your statewide foundations, and then maybe your national and federal foundations as you get more and more established.
Thank you.
Nope, we have another question.
Hi, this is Shireen. First, I want to just thank you. This is really excellent and a huge service to us. So thank you all for putting this together. And mine's a follow-up question to that. How do you know when it's appropriate to, you have an idea, or it looks, after you've looked at the website or literature, it looks like there's sort of a match between what you want to fund and what the funder is offering funding for. How do you make that decision of, should you call them and have a conversation with them, or, make an appointment and meet them? And then when do you really just kind of submit an application and see how it goes? Like, how do you gauge that, and how do you know what their preferences are?
Oh, you're an introvert, aren't you?
I probably am.
Me too. So the first thing you do is you take the big sip of water and you take a deep breath and you send the email or you make the phone call and you ask for the appointment. I can tell you, my success rate as a person who has submitted hundreds of grant applications, my success rate is incredibly higher if I've made contact with the funder first.
That's
So
really interesting. I didn't even know that they were necessarily open to that process. So
there are some that are, and if there's any kind of indication on their website where they say, hey, reach out to us, hey, send us an email, set up an appointment. If there's any indication where they offer you a pre-application meeting or any type of way to contact them, do it.
great. That's super helpful. Thank you so much.
All right, I think we are now on to advanced information and Trish gets to take us home.
Thank you, Tricia. Okay, yeah, on strategic plan. Strategic plan. Ah, I really love this because it's really help you with everything. Like we always say that without planning, you cannot function very well. So you need to plan. And strategic plan is a comprehensive document that serve as a roadmap for your organization to achieve its long-term goals. It helps translate your mission and your vision into actionable steps and provide a clear framework for decision making and resource allocation. Without a strategic plan, you won't be able to know, oh, what next? What should I do to achieve this goal? And the key components of a strategic plan is the mission and the vision statement. I'm glad Trisha talked so much about that. It's really important because when you know your mission, you already know your why the organization exists. If you don't know your why, you cannot do any other thing. And the vision now, this is your future. What do you want to achieve in the next? So it's really important, the mission and the vision statements. Then another component is the organizational goals. What do you want to achieve? We have the short-term goal and we have the long-term goal. Within a short period of time, what do you want to achieve in a year or less? You need to know that, and your goals need to be smart. It needs to be simple. Measure your goal. It needs to be achievable. It's something that you know you can achieve it at the end. And it should be relevant. And it should have a timeline. Really important. Then you should have a
Trish is breaking up on my end. Is she breaking up for you guys too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Trish, you're frozen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. So we heard SMART goals. I think we missed the M in SMART. Oh no. Technology.
Technology is great until it doesn't work.
Trish, we lost ya.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, do you want to yeah, Trisha, why don't you take over and then hopefully Trish will get her back.
Okay, now I have to look up what SMART stands. Okay. So we want to make sure that those goals are, I have always kind of gone by the new, there's the new version, which are SMARTY goals, which stand for specific, measurable, attainable, which are how do you do it, relevant, which ties back to your mission. Is it relevant to your mission now? Timely, when do you want to do it? So we want to make sure that your goals do you want to do them this year, next year, 5 years from now? Then we also want to take into account inclusivity, which is the I, and then equity minded. How can we incorporate equity into our goals as well? So for organizations that might be undergoing some change with regards to their leadership, or maybe traditionally they might have been led by white people, but historically have served people of color, we want to make sure that equity and inclusion are included into those goals. And how do we start making sure that the I and the E are definitely included in there? Having a strategic plan really shows funders that you're not just winging it, that you have a vision. It shows that you're around for the long term. I've seen a lot of organizations that have been around 5, 10 years, but just have grown stagnant and are still filing a postcard at a few $1,000s a year. But I've also seen some newer organizations that have been around less than 5 years that have grown. And the difference is that they've had a plan. They've had a strategic plan. And really when you have a team and a board and a leadership team ready to execute that plan, it shows funders you're ready to execute.
Can we repeat the acronym again? I'll put it in the chat. There's a
Mark,
question.
SMARTIE. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely, inclusive, equity-minded.
Thanks, Trisha.
Can you hear me? So sorry, my network just disappeared.
Welcome back. You're good. We can hear you. Trisha just took over the goals and explained the acronym SMARTIE.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All good. Trisha, where'd you leave off? Were you at kind of detailed action plans? Does that sound accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you should the next thing you should have a detailed action plans. This is where you can break down your goals into the specific thing you want to do and how you're gonna measure these particular goals and your actionable tasks. That's more like your activities. And you should now include your timelines and you should ensure accountability and you should track your progress. And at this point, when doing a strategic plan, it's not meant for just one person. The whole team should be involved. The board of directors should be involved, and some of your community members and some of your donors can also be involved in this planning because you can't see it on your own. Others can really see what is going on and it can also help out in this planning. And why it's really important because it helps you to really know that, okay, I want to achieve this. This is my vision. It helps you to see where you are at the particular time. And most times you can have a plan for 1 to 3 years and you can keep going. At Tree Tops, we usually have 1 to 3 years and we keep going and everyone is usually involved in doing that. I shared this. You can check the chart. You can see a sample of a strategic plan, the one we use now at Treetop.
Marcia, do you want to drop that link again just so it's easily accessible?
I'll put it up in a second here.
Thank you.
And why this is really important to funders is that it shows that the organization has a clear understanding of its purpose and direction. They know their why and they know how to get there. And funders are more likely to invest in organizations with compelling and focused vision. Also, your strategic plan can also show your sustainability plan. It can be involved in your strategic plan. How are you going to sustain this project if no fund is coming in? Because a nonprofit, you cannot just depend on grants and donation. You should have other means of getting fund to implement your project. And with that also, once funders see that, oh, they have a sustainability plan, and this is what they're planning to do in this first year, in the second year, in the third year, oh, they can trust you and say, okay, we can work with these people, we can partner with them. Also, they know that when looking at your strategic plan, they tend to see that you're really ready to execute grant projects. And that's a good one. So you can see Treetop strategic plan. We usually review this almost at every of our team meeting to see that your tasks are being aligned with the strategic plan. Like each department tends to check, oh, are we really aligned with what we put there in our plan? Are we really following our goals to achieve this? And we try to ensure that everyone is involved in the planning. So do you have question on anything on the strategic plan? Any question or looking at the one for Treetops, can you see anything? What do you think?
I noticed that the goals that are established in the plan all have like clear um, timelines. Like in the first year, we will do this. In year two, we will do this. So it really like breaks it down, which I've seen multi-year strategic plans. Sometimes I see just yearly strategic plans. Um,
Also, I like the diagrams that you have there, for example, in page 5. Yeah, I think it makes it more dynamic and easy to understand. So I like that.
Thank you. So it's good to have a plan, and it's good for like all team members should really be involved in doing this, and it will help you out in everything. Kind of will also help you out to see when maybe you're drifting out of your mission. The strategic plan can drag you back. Come back, come back. Where are you going to? You're going somewhere else. So with this, it can really help you with that. Because a non-profit, you don't need to drift out of your mission. You need to focus on your mission. Yeah, so thank you so much. I think this is the last slide.
Thank you, Trish and Trisha. Um, Trisha, did you have looks like we have a bit of time. Did you want to do, is the budget worksheet feasible virtually? Okay,
Not really.
that's okay. So what I'm gonna suggest, we do have an exit survey. So Marcial, can you please drop the exit survey in the chat? And can you please drop the participant agreement in the chat? I think most people have filled out the participant agreement, but in case you missed it at the beginning, please do so now. So there's the exit survey. Thank you, Marcial. Thank you, Trish and Trisha, for your time and expertise and all the work that went into preparing this workshop. We are very grateful. And then one thing that I had in mind as folks are exiting, if you want to share or put in the chat one specific action you plan to take following this workshop. So if there's something that you learned or some important piece of information that you took away, maybe it's just trying to find my IRS determination letter or requesting it because I don't know where it is. But if you took one action item away from this workshop, feel free to put that in the chat. And we have plenty of time for questions. Yes, thank you, Tricia. So if, as you're taking the exit survey, a question comes up, let us know. And I believe I have most folks recorded here as far as participants, but if you didn't at the beginning, I know that some folks joined throughout. Can you please put your name in the chat? There's a few participant names that I'm not seeing in our registration, which is fine. This is free and open to all, but I just want to be able to record your participation and include you in follow-up. So I'm looking at ComSort, Corey Monroe. I think those are the two that I'm not sure about. Thanks, Makisha. Thanks, Tricia. Thanks, Shireen. Makisha, I don't think I have your email. You can either drop it in the chat or direct message to me. I don't mind either way, but I just want to make sure we don't miss you in follow-up. Thank you. Good, Grace. Checking into documents that are listed, setting reminders to renew. I'll get all the boilerplate information together. That's great. I took a screenshot of that history and background. I have like a history and background for the Welcome Plan Collaborative, but those guiding like things to include is going to be really helpful for me to make it a little bit more robust. Strategic planning connecting with budget department. Good, Rose. Double checking on that solicitation link to make sure that it's renewed.
Colin, did you mean the budget like now or in another breakout session?
So we do have a breakout session, like a question in the exit interview or the exit survey if folks would like a small group budget workshop. But I know you mentioned there was like a budget activity that we could potentially do, but I wasn't sure how easy that would be to facilitate virtual only since we had to shift gears.
I think it would be better if we do, if there's interest, we just do a budget, a
Small
separate,
group.
a small group, yeah.
Okay, so in that exit survey, y'all, there's a question if you are new to doing an organizational budget or could use some support in your first organizational budget. Tricia is offering a small group budget work session. So please indicate that in the exit survey if that's something that you're interested in participating in. And after you're done with surveys, if there's no questions, we'll give everybody a little bit of their time back. Really appreciate everyone's time and joining us today. I know I learn a lot in these every time,
Yeah.
just from a grant planning committee standpoint. I learn a ton in our workshops. Abdulbari, question?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to ask Krisha back on the in-kind topic again. So I remember I will check on the depreciation of the in-kind, but what about those in-kinds that we received and we would like to use them in in-kind to match um for like grant applications? So how would you advise in terms of knowing their value? Because let's say, for example, using the previous example of receiving Tower Gardens, we've received Tower Gardens from this Farming Institute, and we would like to use those Tower Gardens to fulfill the matching requirements in our grant submission. So how would you advise going about with that um, if we were gonna submit it as a matching requirement? You're on mute, Trisha.
Thank you and sorry. Different funders have different requirements on what they will allow for in-kind towards matches. So the first thing you need to do is check with that funder what they will allow. If you do determine that they will allow the value of an existing piece of equipment, and you
And I don't know the value. Yeah.
can you look, I mean, can you find can you find it for sale somewhere and find it like a couple of different places for sale? Like, for example, I know this isn't what you're referring to, but like a used car, like a 2020 Buick Rendezvous. You could find 3 examples of that, of what it would be, of what it would cost. Or like a Kelley Blue Book value for a vehicle. That could be like your in-kind value. Can you get your piece of equipment appraised? Is there a way to show what it's worth?
Yeah, I mean, like with the example that you mentioned, that's easier, but like with some other equipment that's like very specific, um, it's been hard to do. Like I'm asking this question because we actually bumped into a practical case where the funder was asking for what's the value of this equipment or what's the value? They said this can be monetary and in kind, but then with the in kind, they were like, what's the value of the in kind? What's the source for the in kind? And how did you come up with that estimate? And because we just didn't know what were the value of the equipment they were trying to match, we ended up just doing everything monetary matching. But it would have been lovely to kind of use some of those equipment as a matching, just not just monetary, if you know what I mean. So they were very specific to the point of like, how did you come up with an estimate? And they were like, we really don't know how we came up with an estimate.
Yeah,
So that's why I was like trying to kind of figure out how to do that in the future if we come
I
into the same situation.
I guess my thought would be is take it from the approaches. If I were to sell this, how would I determine the value? Would I get it appraised by someone and then find that someone and have them appraise it?
But then the question would be how would you find somebody to appraise that they would approve of, and if they approve of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Google. I think in this case, Google might be your friend.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you say it was like
I
a
mean,
garden tower?
yeah, so that was just like an example of like, so the project was like an agricultural project, and we had like
Mhm.
some tower gardens, and we wanted to use it as a matching. And I was just like, how do you kind of, and we also wanted to match a van that we had in house. Um, so we're like, how do you kind of show that in matching with all the very specific requirements that I've never seen before?
Right. I wonder if you looked on like uh Amazon and then like a few like gardening like retail and see if you can find something similar. And be like, this is how much it cost here.
Yeah. So you would say maybe like have 3 to 4, even if it was just like Amazon, and kind of just refer to them and say this is how we came up with this estimate. That
Mhm.
how you would advise about it.
Or, I mean, because your item is used, maybe see if you could find on Facebook Marketplace,
Ah, okay.
Facebook Marketplace, similar items being sold used.
Okay. Sounds good. So basically, you just be creative about how to kind of come up with an estimate. So
Right.
even refer to Facebook Marketplace, maybe Instagram and Amazon, and just show them like, look, these are the values. We came up with this estimate by taking the average of these 3 to 4, for example, values, and this is why we came up with this number.
Right. Sometimes you have
Okay.
to be creative.
Yeah, seems so. It seems so. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Looks like we're good. Again, if you came in late and you'd like to get a follow-up after this, please share your email in the chat, your name and email in the chat. And then these are quarterly workshops, so I think if seeing no more questions, um, these workshops are quarterly. So I know that many folks on this call did sign up for future workshops. Our next workshop is going to be on Wednesday, March 26th, same time, 2 to 5 p.m. There will be a hybrid model once again, so in person or virtual. Hopefully, weather will cooperate and we'll have that in-person option and we can all share some snacks together. The next um, workshop is going to be covering internal accounting practices. So, internal accounting practices, we have a grant workshop presenter, Mubashir Haidari, who works as a grant consultant for the Grand Rapids area YMCA. Um, and Marcial, thank you so much. Just dropped in the chat the grant writing schedule. We look forward to seeing folks at future workshops. You do get added benefits if you attend more workshops. So, for the more workshops you attend, the more time you could earn with a grant writing consultant at the end of the quarterly workshops. We'll set folks up with one-on-one consultations, and then you would be entered to win a promotional video for if you attend 4 workshops. And Marcial is our videographer. He does a wonderful job if anybody's seen his work before. So that's something that you would be entered to win if you attend all 4 of our workshops. So we hope to see you again. Please stay warm and safe, and if you can, stay off the roads. Hope everybody's cuddled